G'day Carbonites, welcome to a new mini-series we're going to be doing, just covering breeding. I always get asked about breeding ever since my breeding video got put on the Ark Wiki site. Lots of people asking questions about breeding, so that's what we're going to be covering, everything to do with breeding. So this first video is just going to be covering the program that I use to keep track of my breeding. So it's called the Smart Breeding App, and I will show you a little bit about it right now. Okay, so this is the app itself. Okay, so you can actually save each library for a certain server. So I've got ones for remastered, like my Patreon server, a couple of like tutorial videos, the Elite Squadron, you might remember that. But I'll show you what we can do with it. So if I open the Patreon server one up, okay, so it basically lists all your dinos that you record into the library. Tells you what the wild level was, all its high stats. It's honestly, it's amazing for keeping track of all your dinos and breeding them. You can use a breeding planner to work out what pairs you should be breeding with. It gives you like a probability of getting the highest level. Personally, I don't use this. I just keep track of it myself using the library. But you can definitely get into this. You can also change the stat weights. So if you want to prioritize certain stats when it chooses its best breeding pair, you can do that down here. You've also got the pedigree. So when you select have I actually done any fucking breeding? A little bit. It actually gives you the family tree as well. So it tells you the mother and the father, and it also shows you which stats were inherited. So we can see by this green arrow we got the highest health stat out of the two. These three are all red, so we actually got the low stats for these ones here. And yeah, it's awesome. These circles are actually for the color. It's something I don't bother keeping track of, but you can definitely do it. You select the dino, and these are the different regions. So you've got, that's the body, the face and the wing membrane, and then the feathers. This is for Dimorphodon, obviously. Also, you've got the option here to select natural colorings. So you, just in case you've changed it, you've admin painted it, you can actually open up all the possible colors if you want. Yeah, and then obviously you select what color it is, because the colors actually get transferred as well when you're breeding, so you can actually keep track of all that. Yep, so there you go there. That's the pedigree. But yeah, once again, I don't bother that. The only thing I use is the extractor and the library. But the program itself is like, it goes into so much depth. You can do timers for taming and breeding. You can set your player details, because you could actually use this as a tribe as well and have your tribe adding into it as well, and everyone has their own owner basically. So you can see down here when you actually extract the details and go to add it to the library, you can actually put who the owner is. And then you've got obviously taming calculator as well. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to get the program itself. So where do you get it from? Well, if you have a look at any one of my videos, I'm going to have a link in there. I've been using this program for a long time, and it's been in the description ever since I first found out about it. So down here, I've got Smart Breeding App Stat Calculator. So that's the link right there. If we go over to that page. Okay, so A lot of people get confused about this because they can't find a download button. If we scroll down, it'll give you a basic rundown of what you can do with the program, which is really good. Also patch notes. So because he updates it a lot. There is a download button there, but he's actually added a new download button right up the top here. So right next to his donation button, a quick plug: if you have a couple of spare bucks, just send them his way, because he does a lot of work on this program, and honestly, it's amazing. So you can click on that button. It'll take you to the latest release. Tells you what he added in this version. So this is 0.20.10. And this is the one we want right here. The zip folder. So Ark Smart Breeding 20.10. That's just the latest version. I mean, if you're watching this video later on, it might be changed. Okay, so after you download that, okay, so you'll be presented with this thing here, a zip folder. Extract it. You'll get a normal Windows folder or whatever operating system you're on, and inside that you've just got the application executable file and the values for all the dino stats. So it doesn't actually install into your computer. You can just use it once you've got the file. You can just double click that and it just runs. So all I've done is I've put it down onto my taskbar so I can quickly open it up whenever. So you might want to move the folder out of your downloads folder, move it somewhere where you're going to keep track of it, just in case you do big cleanouts of your download folder like I do. You don't want to accidentally delete it. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Let's go back into this. Now, the first thing you will be presented with when you open it up is this screen here, which honestly, it's not going to do much for you. So what we've got to do is we've got to set it up. So up the top here, we've got this little gear wheel. And let me just drag that across. Okay. Settings page. This is probably the most important out of this side here, is the wild level. So you've got to know the maximum wild level of your dinos on the server that you're on. If you're on the center, it's going to be 150. The island's going to be 120. Normally, I mean, later on down the track, they might change it so it's actually 150. But anyway, just find out what the maximum level of your dinos is. It's very important for the program to actually work out the stats of the dino. The next one down is maximum domesticated level up. So this is how many levels you can put into the dino after you've tamed it. I'm pretty sure it's 63 at the moment. I might be wrong on that. It might be 65 now, but it's not a huge problem. Then you've got the taming multiplier, also the taming food rate, breeding multipliers if you've changed those. Honestly, you don't need to put these in. These are for the timers and stuff, and I don't use that, so you don't need to do that. This is very important, this section here. This is all the stats for the dinos. So if you're on an official server, just flick it over to official, and you'll see that it drops down the damage and the health, because back in the old days, the dinos were actually pretty overpowered once you tamed them. So Wildcard nerfed the shit out of them. So that's what it is on official. If you're playing on an unofficial server, you might be familiar with a term called pre-nerf stats, and this is what the dinos used to be before Wildcard nerfed them, and all the values were set to 1. So if you're actually running pre-nerf stats, you can just set them all to 1. If you have custom settings on a server, ask your server admin. They should all line up the same, because these values get like they come from the config file like this, so you shouldn't have any problems transferring them. Generally speaking, you're either going to be on official or you're going to be on pre-nerf stats, which is just these buttons here. Okay, let's go back over to our tutorial one. Just check the settings. Yes, it is on official. Okay, so that's good. So yeah, that's what I mean. You can save multiple libraries for all different types of settings. You can be on modded servers, on official, and it just keeps track of all of them. It's awesome. Okay, so before we get into it, I know this question is going to come up. The map we're on is actually called Ragnarok. It's in development. It's only 15% completed. It's being made by the same guys that made Valhalla, who have teamed up with the same guy that made Umazura. Both very good maps, and this map is going to be epic once it's finished. So Ragnarok, definitely check it out. Let's continue on. So I've tamed up some rhinos because they're fucking awesome. I love rhinos. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to record all the stats of these guys just so you can see how the program works. So the way the program works, let's open up the inventory. And now you can keep this on another screen. I'm only putting it on this screen here so you can actually see it. So what we're going to do is we need to extract the stats first. So on the extractor tab, we're going to read the values from Ark. So this is a new feature he's added where it actually records what is on the screen in Ark. So you got to make sure you're in the inventory of the dino. And then what it does is it enters in all the details for you. So you used to have to go through and manually select the dino, enter the level, and all the stats as well. So this new feature is actually really good, but it does play up sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't record the data properly. So it's always good just to double check that it has actually put the right dino, the right level, and all the stats are right. Okay, so we've done that. Now we're presented with a lot of fucking numbers and colors and bullshit. We need to make sure that what it's actually reading is correct. So anything that's a green bar is generally something that the program thinks is correct. Anything that's yellow is something that requires your attention. So if you click on it, you get options up on the side. But we'll go through that later. Anything that's brought up with red is basically an error, and it won't let you go any further until you sort it out. And what happens is on the right hand side, the program lists various things that you can check to make sure you've actually entered everything correct. So we didn't get any errors, which is a good sign. But if we have a look over here, it says the wild level was 125. Now I happen to know this dino was actually a 150. Actually, let's do this. I'm pretty sure I can break it if I do this. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty fucked up. Okay. Wild level 118. That's definitely wrong. It also says that it was tamed with 100% taming efficiency. Also very wrong. I happen to remember punching this rhino in the face quite a few times while it was taming, just for demonstration purposes, obviously. So it's wrong. Now, this is the wild levels side. So this is how many levels went into it as a wild creature. The DOM is domesticated level ups. So this is after I tamed it. I pumped in some levels. Down here is this is what it should be. So we should have 52 levels on this side, but as you can see, the total is only 37, so we're missing some. And on this side here, this is the wild level ups. It should be 176. So it's always one level less than what its tamed out level was. Fuck, it's really hard to explain. Let's actually go to another one. Because this one here is a perfect tame 150. So it's and I haven't put any levels into it. So it's 224, perfect tame 150. So if we do the extraction on this one, it should be 223, and you can see there that's correct. And no level ups because we haven't put anything into it. It's a 150. It was tamed out at 99.5%. This is perfect. We know this is all correct. So that's how it should be going. So let's have another go at this. Okay, so what we can do to troubleshoot this is I know the taming efficiency was definitely under 90. So if we drop this down to 20, only because I know it was around the 30 range. I mean, if you know whereabouts it was tamed, if it was like an 80% or something, drop it down to 70. It'll just, you want to narrow the search radius as much as possible, and then you can click on extract level distribution to reevaluate those that data that you've just put in. So now it says 83.8% and wild level of 125. We know that's wrong. Okay, so all the yellow ones we have options. So basically, actually a damage one is actually really good for this. So it says that it had 17 wild levels put into it and 19 domesticated level ups. So if we have a look at our options on the right hand side, they're the wild, they're the domesticated, this is the taming efficiency, and this is the wild level. So we know for a fact that this was a 150. So we can disregard everything underneath that. All of those are going to be wrong. Also, to get it to sort out by level, you can just click on it. So you can also do taming efficiency or whatever you want. But because I'm searching on wild level, I want to make sure I group all these 150s together. So we've got basically options from, we've got 4 options. We can either have 17 and 25, 20, 19, 18, 23, or 19, 21. All very similar taming efficiency as well, which would make it tricky. And in some cases, you would probably have to guess, but I happen to know that this is the correct one. It tamed out at 36.6. So selecting that transfers it over to here. And we can see there that it actually changed the wild level to 150 and 36.6 for the taming efficiency. So this is now correct. Okay, actually I'm pretty sure that should say 176 as well, but it looks right. Actually, let me just add that up. No, it is right, 176. It looks like it's not including the speed stat into that total because it's missing 30 points, but it is definitely right. That does add up to 176, which is what it should be, because when it tamed out, it was 177. Okay, so this is a very average dino, but what you would do, name your dino here, put your owner in. Later on, after we do breeding and stuff, we can actually enter the mother and the father of it. Change the sex of the dino. I think it's actually a male, but I don't really give a fuck about it. And then just add it to the library. So then it records all the data. That's fucking wrong. Alright, we're just gonna right click and remove that. Go back to the extractor because it changed it to 125. And we know that's wrong. There we go. Okay. Male, add to library, there we go. So level 150, that's right. Yeah, it's weird. It doesn't include the speed stat. It dropped by 27 points. Anyway, let's move on. It is correct. I know it's correct. I don't know why it's not recording that speed stat. Maybe it never did that, and just yeah, never noticed it before. All right, so the next one. Read it from the Ark window. It's going to plug it in manually. Here we go. There's a red error. So on the right hand side, we can check this is common causes of it. So yeah, if it was a bred creature, make sure you've got that checked. This, since taming, no server restart. This, you need to have this checked if you have just tamed the creature and the server hasn't reset yet. So that's probably the best way to use this program. Don't wait until you've leveled it up and put it through hell and back, basically. It's definitely best as soon as you tame it up, just to do the stats and put it into the system straight away. You get a lot higher success rate from doing it that way. But I happen to know that I don't need to have this checked because I'm in single player and I tamed this yesterday and I've already exited and come back in. So the server has done a restart. And basically, keep going through all the list. It'll tell you what to do to fix it. But I can just see straight away that it says it's 171 food, so it hasn't plugged in the data properly, which is a common thing for the screen recorder, the OCR. So we can try and read it again. Sometimes that does actually fix it. If not, you can always just type it in manually and then hit level, extract level distribution. But in this case, it did actually read it correctly. So we've got wild 150, 99.5% taming efficiency. And we've got an awesome stat in food. 47 levels into food is just amazing. It's a shame it's in food, but 47 levels in one stat on a 150 is very good. So you can see the screen recorder failed again at recording that. It's not very good with letters. It's quite good with numbers, but yeah, not with letters. So it's a female. We're going to switch that over, add it to the library. Okay. Let's enter this guy here. So once again, make sure you go in the inventory, click on read values. Okay, and then after you read the values, always check the wild level, make sure that corresponds. So it always helps to make sure you remember what the wild level was, what it tamed out as, taming efficiency wise, and or I guess also the level it tamed out as well, because this, or all three of these should be one less than what its tamed out level was. So this one was a 224, that we got 223. Everything looks good. So we can save that. It's a male. Record that data. And last one. Okay. It's just plugged in the data wrong. Actually, we'll try it. Try reading it again. It seems to be working pretty good. Nah, it failed. Okay, and then hit extract level distribution again. There we go. It's brought it up. So we've got another female. This one's got 43 levels into damage. That's brilliant. So we'll record that one as well. And then have a look at our library. So what it's doing is highlighting the high stats in each of the creatures. Also, if you're like me, you will like to keep track of oxygen and food. Normally it's like this by default, and see how it doesn't really highlight the oxygen and food. So I like to just go over to stats, select those two, apply, and it'll do the rest. It'll do them all the same, because even though these are fairly useless stats, they still increase the base level of the dino, which is always something I strive for. I always try to get like the highest level I possibly can out of the creatures. So yeah, I like doing that. Okay, so running through here, you can see the sex, obviously the different stats, health, stamina, all that. Over here, you've got torpor. So this is actually the torpor level. So that's why that's 223, and that's that 176, that shitty rhino. Next bar over, we've got the top stats. So basically, it's how many of its stats are the top stats of the group. So this guy has 3. So it's the health, the stamina, and what is it, the weight? Yep, the weight. So even though it shares it with these ones here, it's still counted as a top stat. And then obviously you can go to the breeding planner, click on the species. If you want to do that, I don't bother. But it'll tell you the best possible outcome of those 2 creatures. So a 244, and then shows you the stats. Also the probability of you getting those stats. Breeding time is if you've actually set up the breeding multipliers there. And you can also add timers. But yeah, like I said, I don't use that. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that's all I wanted to cover. It was mainly just how to get the program, how to set it up for your server, and how to troubleshoot if something doesn't line up, because a lot of people just expect it to work perfectly straight away, and they're like, this is a big thing. You got to make sure the wild level is correct, the taming efficiency, and the torpor, basically. Well, the torpor and the total sum of them. So as long as you get those 3 correct, even if you have yellow bars, it's still going to be correct. So you will be able to add that to your library. Alright, so if you have any more questions, feel free to comment below. I'll try to answer them the best I can. Next video, we're going to go through stat distribution, inheritance, all that sort of, basically how the stats get inherited by the offspring, and all that good stuff. And after that, the next video is going to be imprinting and mutations. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you found it useful. As always, don't forget to lead your targets. I'll see you next time.